All right, test 1, 2. Now, for anyone watching this, I'm putting together a brief tutorial on word balloons because we've got a translator who's doing a fantastic Dutch translation for us. But he's got a lot of files to work with, and some of those word balloons are going to have larger or smaller sizes. So he needs to know how to edit word balloons because he knows a lot about languages, not necessarily a lot about making comics. So most of his files are going to be Photoshop files, and we're just going to jump right into it. We have here a standard word balloon. What could go wrong? Now you might notice this is just a plain old ellipse, and if you want to make a really easy word balloon like that, I'll show you how we made this one. So you just go ahead, you make an ellipse with the ellipse tool over there, and boom, there you go. And if you really want to make sure, if you want to leave it open to editing, leave it in vector mode. If you want it to be rasterized, static, just merge it onto a normal layer. Boom, you got a normal word balloon. Then you double click on that layer, it brings up the layer styles menu, and that's where you can add a nice little stroke around it. Ta-da! And usually most of our word balloons, they might not be pure white, and they usually don't have pure black outlines, because that's a little harsh. We like to get a little more subtlety in our pages than that. So there you go. We got an oval, you got a thing. If you want to put a word tail on it, which I'm sure you do, one option is to use this little lasso tool. Make sure anti-alias is checked in, because otherwise it'll be really hard and pixely. So you want that checked so it's a little softer, a little more organic. So then you just play around with this, boop, 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 and there you go. And you go to your layer that has the word balloon you want, just color on there, and you can see the stroke is on the whole layer, so it automatically goes on the tail. And there you are. So that is how we made the word balloon right up here. So now you know how to make a very, very basic word balloon from scratch, but to be honest, I'm going to go ahead and scrap this whole thing because when you use the little ellipse tool here, I don't know, the shape isn't quite optimal, especially if you have a larger body of text. It's just, it's more narrow on the ends, it doesn't really optimize. You almost want something closer to like a rounded rectangle, which you could actually select that and go to the rounded rectangle tool. But a rounded rectangle tool, that looks almost a little mechanical. So we're going to jump in and I'm going to show you how to make a really cool word balloons right now. And in fact, now we'll just jump right into that. So we're taking this word balloon, we're deleting it, we're going off the deep end. Come with me. Now the way you can make word balloons that are nice and kind of organic looking, one technique that you can use if you want is just literally take a paintbrush on a new layer and paint a word balloon. You can hit G for the fill tool, fill that in, and we got a little bit of pixels around there, so, oh, no, that should be 100. So we can make sure that something like that, fill it in with the word balloon, there we go, and there you go. You got a nice sort of like organic, naturalistic looking word balloon. So a lot of comic styles, you might want to do it all by hand like that, with the paintbrush tool, because you get a nice feel. But the Dreamkeepers comic usually doesn't have like the totally hand-drawn ones. Sometimes we go hand-drawn if, we want to be like screaming, what could go wrong? Wah! Then you do the whole like fill it in, scrub it. I'm not going to make you watch me scrub and clean up this whole word balloon. You get the gist. But, so we got squiggly crazy stuff we can do with the paintbrush tool. We got all kinds of things. How do we do just like a generic word balloon, but it's not like an out-of-the-box ellipse? Because again, the ellipse, it's a little narrow on the end. It's not quite what we want. And the answer to that is we're going to make a vector shape. We're going to make a vector shape together. And I've narrowed down how I like to make word balloons with a vector shape, so just come along with me. So you choose the pen tool, because in Photoshop that means vectorizing. So you choose the pen tool, and the way it works is when you click, it leaves a vertex. And when you click, if you hold it down and drag, you see those little handles. Those basically tell the curve how hard is that curve going into that vertex. So I can't really explain it verbally, but if you look at what I'm doing, like I'm dragging these things out and it's making more and more like flex in that line. And then when you love your shape, you go back to the original vertex and oh, look, there's a little circle there. And then you click and that's not right. It's just a path. It's just a vector path. There's no shape at all. So we go up here and go to shape, but I think we have to do that before we actually draw the thing on there. Or there might be a way to do it, initially, but I don't know what that is because I'm not that good at vector stuff. So we're just going to delete that work path in the paths area over there. Get rid of it. All right, so let's do that again. And this time we'll make a shape that's maybe a little better. Or maybe not. I'll make an ugly one just to show you. So Click, 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 click. You can see I'm not dragging the handles at all, so they're just nice hard vertexes. But if I click and hold it and drag it around, then I can get it looking all bubbly and weird and goopy, and then I take it to the original one and bring it home. There we go. Now we got a weird shape. And you can probably see the possibilities coming from here. And again, it helps when you're doing the pen tool. If you go up to shape, if you want that effect, there you go. And of course, once you got that, you can double click on the layer. You can click on stroke. You can make the stroke be purple. Why not? It can be anything you want. All right, so now I'm going to show you how I like to make almost all of my word balloons. It's a very simple operation with the pen tool. I think it's like, what is it, like 3 or 4 stops, and then you get a nice organic ovally shape. So you start out on the left side of the balloon, you click and hold. And I'm going to drag these bars up to the point where they are not just the height of the letters, but they exceed the height of the letters by a good margin. So we got a little bit of space there. So there's one. Now the second one, I go to the center above, maybe even like right across from where that handle is, and I do the same thing. I click and drag. I take the handle, it could be a little bit, it could be a lot. I'm going to make a medium amount. Then I go to the right side, boom. Then I go to the bottom, boom. And then you bring it home. And there you go. You can see already if I put like an ellipse down here, the ellipse looks a lot more automatic, a lot more mechanical. But the shape that we made, that nice little shape, it's tall, the letters fit in there perfect, and I'm sure you can imagine that making your own little vector shapes, you can make them taller if you have taller text, you can make them fat, you can make them short, you can do pretty much whatever you need with them. So it's very versatile, and once you know how to do it, once you get the hang of it, it's really simple. And again, just to get things nailed down, usually I like to put that onto a raster layer, double click, put a nice little stroke on there, and bada bing, bada boom. Now, another thing is you can even use the pen tool to make word tails. And because I don't necessarily want to like make a mistake and mess up the cool little balloon I got there, I'm going to pop up to another layer and make a word tail just one layer above. And for clarity, that's the balloon. And that is the tail. So we're on the tail layer. Right now it's empty. I'm going to take our pen, put one hard dot, because I want it to be, well, I accidentally dragged a little bit. One hard dot, because I want it to be to a point where it's pointing at his face. And then you do one of these, and maybe one of those, and then maybe one of these. So you, like, once you kind of get the hang of the vector tool, you can really fly around. And this shape isn't going to be very elegant. As you can see, it's already getting a little sloppy. And then you take it home. And if your shape is really sloppy like this, you actually don't have to start from scratch. You can hold down on the pen tool, go to Convert Point Tool, and that lets you actually go and find those vertices that you were playing with, and you can mess with them. See, I'm going to hold and drag and grab this guy. And then if you hold down Control and drag it, you can move it around a little bit. So right now I'm just going to try to get rid of those ugly overlaps. And now I let go of Control, and I click and drag, and now it's not moving, it's playing with those handlebars. So play around with that, and obviously you can do a lot of stuff. Hopefully it'll look better than that word tail. That tail is really ugly. But we're going to merge it down anyways onto the balloon layer so it gets the stroke and it looks all nice and consistent. So when you want to combine your tail to your balloon, a really handy hotkey is make sure the tail is the layer right on top, and then Control E, poof. It smashes it right down together. Now they're the same layer. All of your vector stuff is gone. You can't drag the points around. You can't drag the handles around anymore. This is what you got. All right. Now for just one advanced level course in word balloons, I'm going to add a few more sentences on this. Well, not a bunch of sentences. And then we're going to do a text effect that can give you, again, a little bit more of an organic feel to things. There we go. Got a little more text in there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this text, and you see this cool little button up here, this text button with like a little frowny face underneath it. Well, first of all, let me show you some other things. Of course, you can go up to the font, change the font. If you need Anime Ace, that's the font that I like to use. You can install it, of course. That's a different video, I suppose. Also, if you press Control T, is it Control T? No. It's Control something else. I'm blanking out in the middle of my own tutorial video. That's cool. But anyways, I think it's Control T or Control P. You bring up this little paragraph window, and that allows you to do stuff like if you want to change the justification, right justified, center justified, and it lets you even tweak with like the spacing between the different words and stuff like that. So if you really want to get into some fine tuning, you can open that menu up. I just wanted to make you aware of it. Paragraph and character menus. All right, but the fun one that I like to use sometimes is this little frowny face text up here. So let's hit that, and it's a warp text tool. And you can go down and you can choose something like make the text arc. Whoa, look at that. And then you got these slider bars to play with, so you don't have to have it ridiculous like that. You can have it be a little more subtle. And so yeah, let's give it a nice little subtle thing. Put a little bit of horizontal distortion on there. And then since Mace has kind of a nice arc of motion going through here, I'm going to just take this, Control T, and rotate it a little bit so it doesn't like obviously connect with that arc of motion, but a little bit. Let's erase that horrible word balloon. Now if we were going to try to put an ellipse underneath this, it might be, might look a little something like that. And, you know, maybe we could try to rotate the ellipse and scale it, you know. So it would do the job, not exactly the most elegant thing in the world. So we're just going to delete that. You got deleted, ellipse, what do you think? So let's go back to the pen tool. Remember to get a new layer here. So with my pen tool, I do my little technique of like boing, right there, a little bit there, a little bit here, not so much, a little bit here, you know, like that. And then back to this. And there we go. We've got a nice word balloon that looks like it matches the shape of the text pretty well, even though it's an irregular bunch of text, even though the text has a bit of a warp on there. So, I think that's it. That is how you make word balloons from scratch. You can use the paint tool, you can use the pen tool to make a nice little vector dealio, add word tails on another layer, merge them down, and you're good to go. And of course, if you want your word balloon to have some different color effects, I should probably show you that really quick. So, I'm going to rasterize that just to keep it simple. Make a little layer up here. Just add a quick word tail. Boom, there we go. Don't need to make it like a Picasso work of art here. Oh, look at that. I merged it down with the stroke on the vector layer. Oops. Well, actually, that'll segue nicely. What if you do this? Well, like I said, I was going to show you how to change the color on it anyways. You could change the color in the layer style, but if you make a new layer, you can actually paint whatever you want in that balloon and use the balloon as a clipping mask. So let me label these so in case you're following along there you can see. That's the balloon. This is the clipping mask. Woo! So a clipping mask is just something where, let's say I want to paint some black. Whew, I sure did that. I painted some black right there. But I only want the black to show up on the word balloon. So what do? I turn it into a clipping mask. And I don't remember how to get it to it in the menu, but I think it's like Control-Alt-G. Yeah, look at that, Control-Alt-G. And you can see the layer kind of like, just like bips right up, and it's like sort of like a part of the balloon layer now, kind of. And the nice thing is, I can leave the balloon layer totally intact and paint whatever I want on this crazy clipping mask. And that also gives you a lot of forgiveness if you're painting something and you change your mind and you're like, wait a minute, black won't let the text show very well. Hoo-hoo. You can go back in there and you can paint it something else. Ah, what am I doing? I went into quick mask mode by mistake. But yeah, let's paint this like a warm sandy tone. We could paint it something like sky blue, but you know, it's up in the sky already, so maybe we don't want to blend in too much with the sky. We want it to pop a little bit, so I'm going to give him a nice sandy word balloon. So we got that sandy color. Now I'm going to make this brush big and soft, and just kind of like fade in a little bit of a different color there. Ooh la la. Then we go back to this layer. Let's put a stroke back on that puppy, and stroke. And we'll make that like a darker brown. I can even eyedropper tool something from there if we want. And there's, of course, other things you can do in the layer style. Add a drop shadow, add a color overlay. You can make it look kind of as fancy as you want, but there's definitely a point where you can make your word balloons look a little too overworked. They're sort of like the equivalent of punctuation. You can put a lot of artistic flair into word balloons, and sometimes that's appropriate, but most of the time it's kind of like a period on a sentence. It just does a mechanical job so people understand who is saying what, and the more attention you draw to it, sometimes it doesn't necessarily make it better. So, that's all I've got to say about word balloons. I hope this was short, fast, and to the point, and I'll be posting this up on YouTube where no one will ever see it because of the new COPPA regulations, and also on BitChute. So, hope you guys are having a fantastic day. That's all from me.